Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm super happy to be here on our panel today, our webinar, Institutional ETH Staking in a Post-Shanghai Context. I'd love to keep the conversation open. So if you have questions throughout, please feel free to shoot them in the chat or unmute yourself if that's possible. And keep the questions coming because that's what we're here to do. So the objective of today's session is really to review what ETH staking means, what it's going to look like in a post-Shanghai context, and more importantly, to hear from our experts at Kiln and Bit2Me, both Duncan Hoffman and David Ortega. And then, also to discuss what to consider and how to effectively roll out an institutional staking strategy for maximum rewards generation. So like I said, don't hesitate to ask any questions in the chat or out loud as we continue to develop on some of these topics. And I guess we'll get started with some brief introductions. So I am Lila Garcia. I'm Global Head of Customer Success and Account Management at Ledger Enterprise. For those of you who are not familiar with Ledger, Ledger is essentially on a mission to secure the Web3 ecosystem and make it more accessible to both consumers and enterprises alike. We've been operating for 9 years. We have over 6 million retail customers worldwide and over 100 institutional clients. As a proprietary technology, we secure over 20% of the global crypto market cap. And on the institutional side, Ledger Enterprise, we're really focused on security at scale. So we work with, crypto native companies, brands, corporates to make sure that their digital assets are secure. And then more importantly, give them access to the greater ecosystem through the likes of staking, DeFi, and more. Duncan, I will pass it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. Duncan Hoffman. I'm the VP Revenue at Kiln. And so if you don't know us, Kiln is the leading enterprise-grade staking platform. So we enable institutional customers and enterprises to stake their assets, as well as to white label staking functionality into their offering. So our platform is totally API first and enables fully automated staking of validators, rewards, data, and commission management. And we have a really strong track record on Ethereum, where we've been running since the genesis of the Beacon chain, currently run over 10,000 different validators. And we have about a little over $1 billion now in assets under stake with the company as a whole.
Thank you. David?
Hello, thank you, everyone. I'm David Ortega. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Bit2Me. And for those that don't know us, it's Bit2Me. It's a financial technology company founded in 2015. We have deep knowledge on blockchain technology, digital assets, and so on. We have a big portfolio of different products, but ranging from, for example, exchanges, mining pools, token issuers, and so on. And we work with different customers also, with retail customers, with governments, with big companies. And we have a big focus on compliance, and as we have been the first Spanish company being listed on the Spanish National Bank as verified custodian and crypto exchange. That's basically what we are.
Cool. Thank you, David. So, just a quick fun fact, because as Duncan mentioned, they've been, as you could say, in the ETH game for a while. We launched our partnership with Kiln last year on both the retail and enterprise side, and currently we have over 120 million ETH staked on both the Ledger Live and enterprise side with Kiln. Just demonstrated the robustness and attractiveness of this joint offer, and the uptick that we've seen since we launched last year, which is nice, a nice figure. We're going to get that up too, Duncan. Before we get into the Shanghai upgrade and the specifics around what's to come, I want to take a quick step back and go over what staking is, and more specifically enterprise grade staking and how it differs from perhaps DeFi or liquid staking. Duncan, do you think you could explain that to us today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a slide here. There's a lot of kind of misnomers around what exactly the term staking refers to that float around in the market, right? So we kind of put together this view of how we think about various activities you can engage in with your cryptocurrency, as well as maybe the risk spectrum that exists among them, right? So obviously the least possible risky thing you can do, and at the bottom of this kind of chart here, is to just hold your crypto in cold storage, do absolutely nothing with it, and just keep it extremely secure, right? And so this is the pros of this. Is essentially it's extremely secure. All you're exposed to is price risk, but your crypto is completely safe. But the piece of it here, which could represent a bit of a con, is your value of your tokens is kind of being eroded by inflation, right? And that's where what we describe as native staking comes into play, which is distinctly different from sometimes the term liquidity staking comes into place. But we're talking about protocol staking, which is essentially securing the network by either proposing blocks or attesting to blocks that have been proposed by other validators, but staking your cryptocurrency on the network itself. And so this is essentially the closest thing you can get to completely secure while still benefiting from rewards that are accrued as a result of this activity, right? And you participate in the security of the chain. There's a few kind of cons to this or potential risks in form of slashing, right? When you put, particularly on Ethereum, when you put your assets at stake, there is the potential that they could be slashed if the validator company you're working with, or if you're staking yourself as a solo staker, you engage in some double signing activity or others. But in all, it's by far the least risky activity you can engage in with your crypto. And so, I mean, to your question then, Lila, like, how does that stand in regard to, let's say, liquid staking, right? So liquid staking is essentially the action of engaging with staking your tokens and receiving a liquid staking token in receipt of that activity. And so this liquid staking token, in the case of ETH, you have Lido, you have Liquid Collective is another protocol that's emerged in this regard. It enables you to still benefit from liquidity. So rather than having your tokens fully locked up and being unable to do anything with them until you unbond them, you can still have this receipt token and engage in more composable actions in DeFi and things of the like. So you can earn extra rewards by participating in DeFi activities with those tokens as well. And the pro there is that you don't have to deal with the entry or exit queue, for instance, on Ethereum, which we'll come to talk about when we jump into what's coming with the Shanghai upgrade. And you can also, generate more rewards from that activity. The cons here are that you're, pooling your funds with other anonymous players. You can see some higher fees, and there's some smart contract risk typically associated with some of this activity. And then the final activity you can engage in is kind of DeFi, right? And I want to point out that when we talk about staking, native protocol staking, that is not DeFi. It again is the activity of securing the network versus DeFi, which is engaging in essentially providing liquidity or for lending activities or automated market making activities in exchange for some sort of reward on that activity that you staked. So there's a lot of opportunity in DeFi. But it's also the most risky, as we've pointed out here, because you're certainly subject to potential hacks or exploits from bad actors, and we've seen a couple of those over the last few months in various DeFi protocols. And there's the risk of impermanent loss and liquidation risk. So this kind of taxonomy, I think, for what activities you can engage in with your crypto is a really helpful starting point for identifying what is my risk appetite in terms of what I'm willing to do with my cryptocurrency. And then realistically, what type of risk surface area exists for that in exchange for the rewards that I'm earning in account for doing that. And I think that's where we view native staking as the best trade-off here, right? There's this quote from Masari when they talk about native staking, but realistically, this is native to the protocol. It is the most organic activity that you can engage in order to secure the network while still earning rewards and fighting protocol inflation. So this is how we think of essentially staking and what it means, especially in regard to the Shanghai update today. And so, I mean, you heard me mention at the beginning that Kiln engages in enterprise-grade staking, but I think that also has a lot to do with the workflow, let's say, the process by which you stake, which is a good point for Ledger as well. I mean, Lila, how do you guys think about enterprise-grade staking, and what are some of the things that entails as well to do that really properly and securely?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to go back to your point on staking and the differences, because, I think it's important for the novice, or even for those people that are familiar with the term staking. The idea is, some people think, oh, yield generation or rewards, but at the end of the day, the direct staking is the proposing or the validation of the network, which just then makes the network stronger itself. So it's actually sort of vote of confidence in that network or that protocol, which is very different than just the idea of, generating rewards. So there's two different pieces to that. But, on the enterprise side, I think it's important also to recognize that, at Ledger, we love our 6 million nano users, but it's not a secure way to stake at scale, particularly, you know, on an enterprise side. So if you're talking anything in terms of, you know, significant amounts of volume, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate security and governance rules in play when you're looking to roll out some sort of staking strategy or any, you know, transactional strategy for that matter. So, you know, the foundation of Ledger Enterprise is security and always will be. And what that means when it comes to staking and other daily operations is setting the proper governance and framework to ensure that your transactions are properly executed. And there's that no single point of failure that you might have on a nano or without such governance rules. On top of that, you know, in tandem with partners such as Kiln and, you know, in-house, we've built API capabilities, reporting and auditing capabilities, which is crucial when operating an institutional investment strategy. And, you know, as we see the regulators coming in and the conversations that we're having now with the way that the industry is moving, you know, that reporting and auditing capability is really crucial and important to consider. So, you know, I think the security is most important, and then the added features are just going to make it more accessible to your end users. David, maybe you could tell us a little bit from your context, you know, how can an exchange or the likes of, you know, Bit2Me take advantage of staking, and how are you guys benefiting it and from it, and how have you rolled out your strategy?
Yeah, sure. Well, the thing is that we wanted to create a new earn offering in our platform, and we wanted to give some reward to our customers if they deposit and stake funds on Bit2Me, so that can help to retention to the users, and then we also get a new revenue stream as staking reward commissions and so on. And also based on this solution, we wanted to add a plus of security in terms of this earn offering that we wanted to give. That's more or less the thing.
Thanks. So one of the major topics, or the topic today, is, you know, the upgrade that's coming next week. So a week from today, in fact, the Shanghai upgrade, and it's going to have a fairly big impact on Ethereum and the staking space in general. Duncan, I know that Kiln just published a survey about the Shanghai upgrade. Maybe you can tell us a little more about the survey and some of the results that you guys found after you launched it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did launch a survey a couple of weeks ago, just trying to get a sense of what exactly is going to happen in the Ethereum staking market, right? This is kind of a question on everyone's mind with ETH having gone through the merge and the transition to a proof of stake consensus mechanism back in September. You know, it's a continuous process that has additional upgrades coming, the next of which is next week on the 12th of April. It's official now, and there's a block or an epoch assigned to it. And so this is essentially the upgrade that will enable withdrawals of staked positions and make ETH assets liquid, right? So any ETH that's been staked on the Beacon chain for the last 2 years or so has essentially been locked, continue earning rewards and everything, but it's sat there locked with the inability to transfer it. And that's been one of the benefits of liquid staking tokens, is allowing some liquidity to come into place there. But the big piece now is that, by standard operation on Ethereum, you will be able to exit your staked positions and bring liquidity to the network. So there's a number of things here which are really interesting, right? Like, for a big piece of this is that it will de-risk Ethereum staking in a big way. So, a lot of people have, very much confidence in the Ethereum team and what they're releasing, but this is another milestone along the way to prove that this is going well and we can safely stake our assets in the future because we'll be able to withdraw them. And so part of that is also the ability to skim the rewards. So you may have a staked validator with 32 ETH on it, earning some rewards. After the Shanghai upgrade, you'll be able to take those rewards off and further stake them to compound them if you'd like. And it's essentially a much more capitally efficient way of allocating the Ethereum that you have, right? And so once this comes into play as well, it also paves the way for further Ethereum upgrades, which are planned. So it's just one further notch along the path of the roadmap to proving that Ethereum is evolving in this respect. And it's something we see a lot of institutional players and enterprise customers looking at with great anticipation, as it makes it a lot easier to engage in this activity and lowers essentially the risk threshold, let's say, of dealing with it. And so if we look at, some of the the surveys that we've done and everything on the next slide. One piece that we set out to ask a bunch of our prospective customers and others in the space was this survey that we put together, where we asked essentially, it was I think 112 different market participants representing something like 15 billion in crypto assets under management. What are you going to do when Ethereum withdrawals become active, right? Because in anecdotal conversations, we would hear all the time that everyone wants to wait for Shanghai to happen to confirm that it's working as expected, and then they'll start to stake. And so in putting the survey together, we wanted to kind of bring a little bit more data to that information asymmetry, because everyone says that's what they're going to do, and they're all curious what everyone else is going to do. And so we started to ask them, well, exactly what do you plan to do? And so the really surprising thing, I think, for us in looking at this data was that essentially 95% of everyone we talked to was planning to stake, and to do it within a few weeks of Shanghai going live. So that's to say that realistically, by the middle of May or so, 95% of market participants that are out there will have started to stake some Ethereum, which is a staggeringly high number, right? It's what you would kind of expect, because at the moment, Ethereum really only has about 15% of the circulating supply staked, where most proof of stake assets are sitting in the 50, 60, 70% range. So it stands to reason that a lot of people have been waiting to see, what exactly will the Shanghai update do. And so we have that here for you as well. The basis for this, there's a number of factors that contribute to this, but we believe a big portion of that is the fact that withdrawals were not liquid. And so interestingly enough, we had Joe Lubin was in the Kiln offices a couple of weeks ago at Paris Blockchain Week, just expressing his anticipation for kind of the opportunities that are unlocked once withdrawals become active on Ethereum. And so if you go to the next slide, then, yeah, this has some implications, right? A lot of people are familiar with the concept of the exit queue for Ethereum once withdrawals are active, certainly, but there's also an entry queue. And realistically, first of all, the way these queues function, it's kind of dynamic in terms of how long the queue will be based on a number of factors, but mainly how many active validators are there, and then how many people are looking to exit or enter, as there's a fixed amount that can go in or out per day. And obviously, if there's huge demand in either direction, these two queues are decoupled from one another. So one doesn't necessarily affect the other, but you can have pretty robust implications, let's say, if everyone is rushing in all at once. So if we take the example right from the survey results that we're seeing, with 95% looking to join the entry queue within a couple of weeks after Shanghai going live next week, we can extrapolate that out a little bit. And so this is what we tried to do, just to give some sort of estimation of what exactly might happen. And so in our little simulation here, we're saying, what if, okay, 30% of the Ethereum that's held by all of these different market participants were to be staked shortly after Shanghai goes live, right? That would bring it still on the low side of total circulating supply staked, as we see with other proof of stake assets. Well, the result would be that there's over 400,000 new validators looking to join the entry queue. And this is essentially a 6-month queue is what that would entail, right? So it's something to be mindful of. There very likely could be a huge inflow of people looking to stake, and that could have broad ramifications for what the queue actually looks like and how long it will take to actually join it and start earning rewards. Now, obviously, over time, this will likely approach some more of a steady state and calm down to hopefully on the order of hours or days. But it will be really interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. And there's also like the technical aspects, right? So I think, this is obviously a conversation we've had over the last few months, Lila, but it'd be curious to see what effect are you guys seeing in terms of demand from institutions who are looking to start staking Ethereum, as well as just on the technical front, like what changes are necessary from your guys' perspective in order to begin with this activity?
Yeah, I mean, technically, not that much will change. You set the governance rules, you set the framework to roll out a staking strategy, regardless of the protocol itself. And then, you execute on it. I think, we already have institutions that are staking Ethereum with us through the Ledger Kiln partnership. We expect to see more adoption from the institutional players, certainly, as they move, cautiously into the space. When considering any new strategy with a fair amount of assets at play, there's always the questions of diversification of vendor or solutions, and of course, the need to ensure that the selected partners are secure and, there's the risk association is minimal. I think certainly with the ability to withdraw rewards, the institutional clients are more interested in staking ETH as they can maintain certain levels of liquidity that they weren't able to before. But I'd be interested in, Duncan, in the survey, there was a question on, what they plan to do, whether they're going to compound the rewards or whether they're going to do something else, or whether they're going to, take those rewards elsewhere. What was the result there? What were people planning to do?
Yeah, essentially they do want to compound it, right? So they'll skim what rewards had been earned and further stake those in order to benefit from it quite a bit. So it'll be, people seem to be choosing to go full in on staking is what we're seeing. Yeah.
But it's also funny because going back to one of the slides that you had on the total percentage staked, if you look at a protocol like Polkadot, where there's a 28-day lockup period, and the adoption there is what, we're at 47%. That's pretty large, if I'm seeing the right icon, versus Ethereum, whereas the lockup day period now for Polkadot is longer than the withdrawal period will be for Ethereum. So we'll see what will happen in the next week or so, as people get more comfortable with the fact that they'll be able to access some of this liquidity. David, what's your take on what will happen after the Shanghai upgrade, and how you guys are viewing it on a Bit2Me side?
Yeah, okay. Duncan said before something that it's interesting to me, that is that Shanghai will de-risk Ethereum staking. That's what we think exactly. And given that should boost the confidence in the ETH staking from institutions and big players, and because a lot of them are waiting for this specific feature and this specific kind of way of working. So that's what we are going to expect.
Got it. So, I think we all can agree that there's going to be an increased demand for staking, and, then the question is, how long will that entry queue be, and what to consider when thinking about entering in, because in fact, it's not going to be an immediate thing. Is that right, Duncan?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing, right? So it's dynamic. There's certainly no one can tell with any great certainty, but the direction the wind seems to be blowing in, that it could be quite a while.
And David, I know that you guys have a unique strategy at Bit2Me, obviously, being an institutional player yourself and entering into some staking strategies prior to the Shanghai upgrade. You're what we consider a first adopter, but what were some of the things that you guys considered? Because I know that, it's not just a one size fits all, and you guys are doing it a little bit differently. Maybe you could share with the people on the call today how you guys considered it and what things you took into account before rolling it out, staking in general, in fact.
Yeah, okay, sure. We create our own infrastructure in some places, even though we rely on other players, as we are seeing here. But all the time we are centered in institutional grade solutions, because we want, well, as you said before, the security is one of the most important things for you and also for us. As I said in my presentation, we are the first exchange registered in the Bank of Spain, both as a custodial and as an exchange of crypto assets. So that makes us really important, both in compliance and security. And well, we are a global solution and support 10 languages. And with all the solutions, different solutions that we have, basically we wanted to make focus in the last 2 years in the earn part. And for that, we created a solutions that have two different layers. One is Nodes, that brings the staking solution to institutional clients, so they can participate in the governance of proof of stake protocols and also earn rewards based on that. And also we use that same infrastructure for our own product to the retail customers, to the end users, so they can just earn rewards and participate also in the governance of proof of stake in a really simple way. And well, that's what we have created and what we are moving on around.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It goes back to my point, and as we see this institutional adoption coming, albeit slowly, we are seeing our clients' need for the diversification of partners and the way that they're rolling out these strategies. So you guys, as you said, are running your own nodes in tandem, working with other providers. So I think it's something to take into account, particularly when you think about, the size and then the strategy itself of the protocol too.
Exactly. What I was meaning in this case is that we have our own infrastructure in which we have both our nodes in some places and nodes of third parties in some other cases, because it's important to have focus on what you can do best, as normally said. And we work in both types of solutions. That works well for us. So that's the point. Yeah,
it makes sense. And we have a lot of, we have other clients like yourself that are developing strategies that are similar. And I think it's, like I said, it's important to diversify and consider, what's going to be the best for you based off of your strengths and where you can, capitalize on those. So maybe Duncan and David, what would you say in terms of how can organizations leverage this partnership between Ledger and Kiln to benefit from the Shanghai and then to, maximize their ETH staking and their rewards going forward?
Yeah, I think the most straightforward way is just using it natively within Ledger Vault, right? So this is the big piece, is a great deal of work has been put into place to make this transition seamless, to make it a native staking experience from cold storage. So it is absolutely the most secure way of doing this on the market, with an extremely streamlined experience from the get-go, frankly. I think the thing to keep an eye on is what exactly is that entry queue going to look like as it evolves, to manage expectations around, okay, when can rewards be earned? But realistically, getting in as quickly as possible is probably a straightforward thing to do. And so that would be my biggest advice, is look for something that fits with the workflow that you would expect to see and is still within your risk and security appetite, let's say.
Yeah, for me, one of the best points of the solution is to be able to maximize capital efficiency in an automated way, and so you can save resources and be better on operations and so have better development time to get your solution working. Basically, that's the point for me.
Well, at Ledger, we always say security first. So, never compromise on security. And I think that we've built a pretty unique offering, Ledger and Kiln. And then, most importantly, when we were thinking about developing our staking capabilities for our end users, is to make it, fairly streamlined and easy. So, one-click staking, but with that level of security that is not going to worry you when you click go. And then, of course, the auditability, I don't know, is that the word, audited and variable on-chain capabilities as well, with the reporting, et cetera. So, at Ledger, it's security first and everything that comes after. All right. We are coming to the end of some of our questions. I wanted to open it up to the audience because, we're about a week away from the Shanghai upgrade. We're certainly, I know that at least the three panelists are very interested to see what it's going to look like in terms of the transaction volumes and the movement on the institutional side into the space, and see what the adoption levels are going to look like. Most, I'm most curious about the entry and exit queues, and how it's going to look in the weeks following the upgrade on the 14th. I want to thank Duncan and David for joining us today and for giving their expert insights. We have some time, so I'm going to open it up to the those that are on the call and see if we can answer some questions for you.
There's a good question here about what are the implications for rewards if we see massive adoption of ETH staking? Would we expect to see the APR driven down by increased assets being staked? And yeah, so that is very much the case, right? The way it'll work is that consensus layer rewards will go down, as essentially the emissions of rewards will be the same with more validators for it to be distributed amongst. So that would be something that we would expect to see if, we reach that 50-60% staking level. But the other thing to keep in mind is that you could also see kind of a correction for that or an increase coming from MEV. So if there's more use of transactions on the blockchain and everything like that, this is a way that essentially boosts some of the APR that comes as a result of it. So that was a good question there.
Thanks. I see the next one. Do you see TradFi, big money flowing into staking anytime soon when they need the same staking tech and tooling? So, I mean, I'll answer this and then maybe David wants to jump in too. From a ledger standpoint, the first adopters are always the crypto native, and we also cater to a lot of corporate clients that are also, exploring, moving into the rolling out staking strategies. And I think TradFi, quote unquote, is always the slowest to move because it takes a lot longer for them to adopt, particularly into the crypto industry and develop and deploy a strategy. It's not to say that they're not there. I certainly think they are. From a technology standpoint, the infrastructure will be the same. It doesn't matter, what size enterprise you are. From a ledger standpoint, we treat $10 million stake just as the same as a $100 million stake. I mean, security first, and the governance rules, of course, that go along with it to make sure that the strategy or the transaction itself is secure. So the tech and tooling would be the same. David, what's your?
I wanted to add a little bit on this point because I wanted to say that two things. On one hand, money from governments and so on is not there yet, I think. But in the case of companies, small, medium, and big companies, all of them, and also we have seen money from funds, from different types of funds, are starting to play with this kind of solution. For now, it's playing. Obviously, it's not. They are seeing what is in this technology. But I think that with this change and with all that we have been saying in this presentation, this money will start flowing slowly at first, but probably with more speed in the future, the near future, I will say, because as I said, some companies, medium and big, and some funds are starting to see this technology with good eyes because regulation is coming and in Europe with MiCA and so on. So we have a lot of good things around.
There's also a question, does the Shanghai upgrade mean that institutions will be able to compound their rewards? Yeah, I mean, I think, Duncan, this goes back to your point earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So with skimming becoming possible, you can certainly skim those off of the validators you have staked and apply it towards a new validator. So it's kind of an exciting application of, certainly more capital efficient, and you can start to really make the most of the rewards that you're earning there.
And then on to just add on top of that, does liquid staking still make sense after Shanghai, especially for institutions?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question, right? So as we're talking about a prolonged entry queue and potentially exit queue as well, depending on the demand for exit there, I think the central value proposition of liquid staking still exists in that you have instant liquidity. And then the other piece is it'll probably follow some kind of risk-adjusted approach to earning rewards because there is the composable aspect of liquid staking, which just isn't there with native staking. So if one could imagine a portfolio that's set up of partly liquid staked tokens and partly native stake tokens, where the liquid stake tokens are then used to generate additional rewards in DeFi applications. So there'll probably be a lot of room for creativity around what people would like to do, and it just comes down to risk appetite.
Yeah. Do we have estimates on the length of the exit queue post Shanghai upgrade?
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more difficult to assess. I'd say they'll be largely driven by people who have staked with Lido and things like that, right? And looking to essentially get some of that money out. At Kiln, we have put together a very robust calculator, essentially, both for entry and exit queue. I don't have any good estimates exactly of how much people might look to unstake, though. So what we could do is still an extrapolation of it, essentially. It functions in very much the same way. And so I think, I know that we posted a blog article around this a while ago, which maybe we can link to in the chat, but you would expect it to be potentially on the same order. It just depends on the demand for exit.
Duncan, you're supposed to be our future teller. You don't have an answer, but I mean, are we talking weeks or months, or are we talking, you know, what would be, can you give, do we have a general estimate?
Still longer. I would say on the order of weeks to months. It's not going to be down in the days or anything like that, because there's still a lot of pent up demand. Two years of staked validators will do that, I think.
Yeah. But then to build off of that, so, you know, once the initial drive in and out happens, let's say in 6 months' time, or even a year, then we can expect the entry and exit queues to be almost minimal, if not existent. Is that correct?
Yeah, I expect us to reach some sort of equilibrium. And I think, you know, akin to liquid staking tokens, there will be, let's say, innovation in the form of issuing more capitally efficient ways of staking and transacting with those staked assets that will seek to bypass, you know, these entry and exit queues. So I would expect it to come down to hours, days, after this kind of period initially, and then potentially go away entirely with some new innovations in the space. Yeah.
Okay, there's one last question. How will Shanghai, how will affect Shanghai to the staking performed in layer 2s like ZK rollups? They are becoming very popular now.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is just generally the broad value proposition of Shanghai in general. So once Ethereum is withdrawable, it'll bring greater liquidity to everything, and I would expect this to persist across layer 2s and everything there too.
Makes sense. Are there any more questions from the audience? There's a fair amount of you, so don't be shy. All right, we've got a poll coming out. So for those of you that are still connected, please feel free to take the poll. Are you planning to stake after the Shanghai upgrade? Yes or no? And if no, what prevents you from staking? Great. Duncan or David, is there anything else that you want to end us or round this out with? It's been a super interesting session. I'm very happy to be speaking with you more. We do often already, but to be on this panel with you today and to also open up these conversations to all of the participants. I think we've got a really interesting weeks, potentially months ahead of us. You know, at Ledger, we're very excited to see what happens and how our institutional clients are moving in and around this space. Anything else you guys want to add for us today?
I might just underscore the opportunity that staking creates, right? I think in the crypto space for the last couple of years, the narrative was predominantly driven by lending and borrowing type activities. And this was largely because that was so much easier to do as a result, like technically. Staking is not the most technically easy thing to do, but there's been great strides in innovation there to make it easier to stake from very secure places. And so in terms of just being a secure and, you know, low risk way of earning rewards and participating in network security, it wasn't necessarily at the forefront in years past, but this clearly makes a lot more sense given some of the systemic risk that we've seen explode over the last year or so. So if you're not thinking too much about staking yet, I suggest looking at it more, because on the whole, the pot odds are very much in favor of staking.
Nothing else to add on my part, just to say that it's been a pleasure to speak to you again a little bit and having this almost 1 hour chat. So thanks for inviting me. That's the only thing.
It's a pleasure. So there is actually one more question. How curious, how does Ledger know they're securing 20% of the crypto market cap? So, what we do is we actually have across our users, our 6 million users, we have Ledger Live, and we can see transactions and volumes based off of that. And then obviously on the enterprise side, we offer a self-custody solution. So very important that our clients hold their own keys, but of course we can assess the total assets that they have within our infrastructure system. So that's how we measure it. Very high level answer there, but it has been a pleasure speaking with you both, David and Duncan. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you to all the participants who've joined us this evening, morning, maybe really late at night, wherever you are. And hopefully we'll do it again, maybe in a month's time after the upgrade, to see where we are and how the market has changed. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to you.
Bye.
Bye.